Morning, everybody. I wanted to just film a response to a really awesome comment that I got on one of the videos pertaining to pain and pleasure, because I think it's such an important, cool-ass topic. But basically, human behavior has been studied now for over a century. And personality, or the ego, is a response to behavior. And these studies that have been done, that I'll walk you through a couple that I find pretty interesting, are based around pain and pleasure. That's what human behavior is shaped by. One of the most famous studies that they've ever done, I think it was done by Watson, the psychologist, was basically they had this little baby playing around in a little playpen. And they were observing him and his reactions to, animals. So they would put a bunny in, a rat, a puppy, and the little baby's like giggling and just having a great old time with these animals. Then they took these, then they basically brought the animals back, and each time the little bunny would show up, then the psychologist would make like this awful ringing sound. So the association that the baby started to have with the pleasure of petting the white rabbit was pain. And so the second half of the study was basically that they brought in the bunny again, and then the psychologist was wearing a bunny mask. And the baby, of course, this time is like crying and very unhappy. And the interesting thing was they would bring the other animals in, and the same response would happen. So we're seeing in these studies the conditioning of human response, right? We're seeing the associations that the psyche makes based on anything from sound to sight to physical sensations and just human experiences. And now this pertains heavily to trauma, if we're looking at trauma, because another guy, the holotropic breath guy, I forget the guy's name, but watched a documentary recently on him, and he was also real big into psychedelics. A lot of his studies, I think he was the first real psychologist to study LSD and microdosing for trauma, actually. And in a lot of these client cases that they were using the psychedelics on, they would find people basically being taken back to the perinatal phase, the birth canal, and reliving their birth processes. And so the guy began studying the trauma that's formed at the birth process, and then the corresponding human kind of shaping of the personality as a result of, the pain of having to go through that dark canal, the pain of birth, and, the pain of leaving the mother, the pain of just cesarean C-sections, for example. But anyway, he was also studying, his studies were also very interesting, and so that you would have the people going into these transpersonal states because of the psychedelics, or in holotropic breathwork, which he was real big on. And in some cases, they would become, during their trip, these archetypal energies. Some of them would regress to childlike states to really relive certain periods of their life, and other people would turn into full-on, like, demonic figures. And what they found that when people would go deeply into these states of really fully feeling and embodying these painful experiences, that a lot of the pathologies that resulted from them would resolve. So, for example, like one guy, when he was, a bad boy, the parents would stick him into an underground cellar as punishment. And so his pathology, you know, was an extreme obsession with like masochism and bondage, and so he was working with the therapist on, you know, fully experiencing those pains and those traumas. Now, where I want to link this into this video specifically is to explain that basically, like, our human behavior and also our personality is shaped by a punishment and reward system. So pain is a direct correlation to the punishments that we've received by, you know, authority figures, parental figures, life in general. And same thing with reward. The rewards that we've gotten from behaviors has shaped our understanding of pleasure. And when a human performs a behavior and gets punished for it, we all already know this, that suppression response of that impulse becomes unconscious. And that unconscious repression is singularly like, it'll have to come up somehow. You know, nothing really ever gets repressed. It just gets sent to the unconscious, and then it expresses again in the form of a pathology or in the form of a dysfunctional behavior. So according to these studies, fully going into these traumas helps to resolve the unconscious repressed energies that they're creating, that are shaping the personality and also the behavior of the human. Now, I do want to mention one thing real fast, that nowadays I know that there are therapies like, I think tapping's one of them. I think EMDR is another one, where basically you don't necessarily have to relive a trauma in order to heal it. But the more important kind of point that I want to make in this video is that, you know, when we talk about the ego, there's so many concepts that come into the pain and pleasure dynamic, and we say, oh, you know, well, pain and pleasure, seeking for pleasure and avoiding pain, that is a egoic behavior. And actually, I want to really bust that up, because the truth is that seeking for pleasure is a very healthy, natural, integral behavior that is core to your, like, wellness and your happiness on the human level. And being able to self-fulfill or self-realize on that human level is it's a real big part of, you know, balance in one's life, and a holistic kind of progressive movement. So we need to stop demonizing the search for pain, for pleasure, and rather acknowledge that the pain or the traumas that we've experienced in life are informing us about pleasure instead. So when we have that self-insight and that understanding, then we're better equipped and more likely to move in the natural flow of your own, you know, Kate-ness or John-ness, or, you know, whatever it is that makes you happy and makes you feel good. So yeah, this video is kind of all over the place, but I really just think this is some really cool stuff, and it's really pertinent to the times that we're living in, because we are starting to really be conscious and be awake and be aware about how our behaviors are impacting not only ourselves but the planet as a whole. So leave you with that today. And I do want to mention one more thing. I read your comments. Thank you so much for leaving them. If I don't always have the ability to sit there and respond to everybody. And one thing I think I might do is just sit down and respond in a video format someday, just so that it's not a one-sided conversation, because that's not what this should be at all. Okay, much love to you guys. Take good care. Bye-bye.